All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We're back with another video. And first off, Happy New Year. And yes, we're back with Vinyl Tag 2023. Rob Walker, let the music play. Quickly put this one together to kick off the new year. Thanks so much for this, Rob. I'll leave a link to Rob's channel and I'll leave a listing of all of the questions if you want to participate in this. And as always, 20 questions with the Vinyl Tag 2023. So let's get right to it. So favorite new release of 2022. I almost thought I wasn't going to be able to participate in the first question right off the bat because, you know, I tend to get reissues or live recordings, that sort of thing. And I really, for the past year, haven't picked up really any new releases. And it was boggling my mind. But this, oh, of course, absolutely. Jethro Tull and the Zealot Gene. Now, this is the 2 CD and Blu-ray book form of this release. But yeah, Jethro Tull, the Zealot Gene. I really enjoyed the album. A lot of people not big fans of the kind of gruesome cover featuring Ian Anderson, but great to see a Jethro Tull album released and not Ian Anderson's Jethro Tull or Jethro Tull featuring Ian Anderson. Great to see it released as the band name. And yeah, Jethro Tull, and very happy to see that for 2022. Okay, last band or solo artist you have seen live. Now, I haven't seen very many concerts at all through the past, year or so, of course, with the pandemic. But I did see a local band in concert just recently, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Stevie T. And so this is Stevie T's album, Wood, Wire, Glass, and Soul. So Stevie T is a local recording artist who is very blues-based, a blues guitarist, but also does a lot of, sort of classic rock covers. And this was a great show at a local venue simply called The Hall. And it was a great concert, had a fabulous time. It was one of the first concerts I've seen in a while. And even there is the ticket to the show. Unfortunately, Stevie T, his stuff is not on Spotify, but if you are on YouTube and you Google Stevie T and the Kingtones, you can find some live stuff that is available, but he put together, he's got a great new band and sounding really good, and I do hope he releases some new music. Okay, their first album was the best. Now, there's so many examples of this one. The first one that popped to mind was the Canadian band Saga, a very progressive rock band, very keyboard-driven progressive rock band. They've had so many albums and so many great albums, but I still get back to their debut, simply called Saga. This is where I first connected with the band, saw the band at my local high school, and really enjoyed it. A different sound. So this came out in 1978. Very proggy, but as I said, very keyboard driven. And I mean, it's not a perfect album, but I still, for this band, often go back to their debut, Saga. Okay, Hat Trick, show the vinyl CD cassette of an album. Here's another one I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to participate in because I don't hardly have any cassettes. Even back in the day, I didn't really buy that many sort of pre-recorded cassettes. I would make mixtapes or do dubs of albums and things like that. So I said to my wife, do we have any cassettes around? And she kind of did some searching. We really don't have very many, but she did find this one. This is Stompin' Tom Connors, a Canadian artist I've talked about, who is very sort of almost alternative country, traditional country, but with a lot of humor, just kind of a different approach. So this is Stompin' Tom Connors. This is kind of like a best of compilation called Fiddle and Song. So had this cassette, and this was on when Capitol was sort of starting to reissue a lot of Stompin' Tom stuff. So there's the cassette of that. And I remembered, yes, of course, I do have the CD version of this, Stompin' Tom of Fiddle and Song. So there you go, same track listing. And then I thought, I don't know if I have the album. Turns out I do. The vinyl record was released with a different cover. So it's all the same. It's all the same tracks that are on the other ones, but just with a different cover, kind of doing that whole fiddle and song sort of thing. So there you go, the vinyl, CD, and cassette version. And I want to thank my wife for finding the cassette version in our house because I didn't think I was able to do that one. Okay, question number 5, an album that starts and ends with the same letter. Being very uncreative with this one, Steely Dan and Asia. I don't know how many people are going to be using this album, but Steely Dan and Asia. Okay, now we've got question number 6, Born in the Same Year as You. Okay, I'm the same age as Rob Walker, which I did not know. So for an artist born in my birth year, which is 1964, I went with Gord Downie of the Tragically Hip. Sadly, lead singer Gord Downie no longer with us. He died of cancer in 2017. This is their debut EP, Gordon Downie. If you see pictures of Gord Downie, he didn't usually wear his hair this long. He actually kept it fairly short, but yeah, is sadly missed. Now, if we're going with an artist born in 1964 that is still going, I'll go with Lenny Kravitz. And there's Lenny Kravitz and his greatest hits. Okay, question number 7, most listened to album in 2022. I've got to go with this one, the soundtrack to A Summer of Soul. I have this both on CD and on vinyl. Really enjoyed the documentary. Wasn't sure if they were going to actually release anything from the documentary, because I think it took well over a year. The documentary came out in 2021, and it wasn't until this year that they started to release some stuff, and I wish they would release more, because this only scratches the surface of the documentary. But this is the double album. Absolutely, really enjoyed it. Okay, and we've got most listened to artist in 2022. For me, it's always got to get back to Frank Zappa. So this is one of the many releases from Frank Zappa this year. This is Frank Zappa and the Mothers at the Rainbow, the historic final show at the Flo and Eddie lineup at the Mothers. And there's been just a ton of Frank Zappa stuff. And this is one of the artists that I'm always returning to, is Frank Zappa for sure. Okay, number 9, Australian artist or a band. Something a little different. An artist you don't often see chatted about is Paul Kelly and the Messengers. And an artist I've really enjoyed. This is the album Under the Sun. It was a friend of mine years ago who had introduced me to Paul Kelly. Unfortunately, I haven't come across very much Paul Kelly in the wild, but I will have to seek out more stuff of Paul Kelly. Paul Kelly and the Messengers. So great sound. Okay, we've got question number 10, surprising purchase of 2022. For me, this was a little out of my wheelhouse, but I did pick up an OG copy of the Pixies, and this is the Pixies and Surfer Rosa, which I have enjoyed. Often seen it talked about on the VC, never had come across a copy of it, and it's a little different, but I really did enjoy it. Okay, an artist band you are complete on. A band I have talked about many times is the band Max Webster, featuring Kim Mitchell, Canadian band. They opened for Rush many times, also collaborated with Rush on the track Battle Scar. This is a CD box set of their complete works with some extra stuff. I also have the vinyl version of this, but it's a little cumbersome to show. And I also have a couple of different best ofs from Max Webster that do feature 1 or 2 tracks that for whatever reason are not included on this. So yeah, Max Webster, pretty much through the 70s and just into the early 80s, and then Kim Mitchell from the band went solo. But there's a early picture of the band, Max Webster, great Canadian band. Okay, a great run of 3 albums. I don't know if this one's been spotlighted, but how can you beat when you go Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and as you can see, this is a slightly different cover. This is a 180-gram anniversary issue of this. When you go from Dark Side of the Moon to Wish You Were Here to Animals, incredible. Absolutely incredible. What a great run of 3 albums. And I did pick up the Animals reissue. That was absolutely terrific from this year. Okay, an 80s soundtrack, something a little different. Let's go with Tangerine Dream and Firestarter. And Tangerine Dream did come out with a number of soundtracks, or participated in a number of soundtracks through the 80s, but we've got this from 1984, Tangerine Dream from the film Firestarter. Of course, Drew Barrymore on the cover there. Okay, gosh, we lost them in 2022. Where to begin? But we lost this great Canadian artist just recently, passed away at the age of 89 on December 29th, 2022, talking about Ian Tyson of Ian and Sylvia fame. Died at the age of 89. Certainly known for his work with Ian and Sylvia, great folk artist. It's been great to see so many VC members commenting on Ian Tyson, particularly from the States. It's great that Ian Tyson Tyson is well known globally, and great folk artist. Kind of went into more of a country cowboy vein as a solo artist in later years. Known for the track Four Strong Winds, which for that song alone he will always be remembered. But Ian Tyson, certainly well remembered for sure. Okay, so we are now on question number 15. Disappointing purchase in 2022. For me, the music, I want to stress for this particular one, the music is fantastic on this. This is an example of a disappointing repackaging of something. And talking about the Slade live box set, this is All the World is a Stage. Absolutely love it. It is terrific live stuff, a lot of it not previously released. It's just the packaging overall. For this, I was expecting a bigger CD box set. Again, for a band like Slade that deserves this. The CDs, like it's clamshell, and I find it sometimes even a little tricky for whatever reason to open. But even the booklet is really bare bones, just a number of pictures, which is fine. But then it's just the track listings, and there's not even any dates included. So they list the tracks but there's no dates included. This one you just happen to know because on the sleeve it says for the real box 1980, but on everything else there's no listing of the dates, no background information, no real liner notes to speak of. Again, it's a terrific box set musically. I've really enjoyed it, and man, Slade were rocking hard. But this is a band that deserved a better presentation for a box set that was fairly hyped. I mean, there was a lot of anticipation, certainly for Slade fans, for this coming out, but then it arrived in just a very simple little box set. Having said that, box sets of this size can still be good, but the liner notes or the booklet alone, it just doesn't do it any justice. But as I say, musically, incredible. Okay, number 16, a non-vinyl purchase, and I think for just about everybody, this is going to include a book. One of the many books I've been enjoying from writer David Hepworth. You've likely seen David as part of the Word in Your Ear podcast. They have a YouTube channel, and always enjoy their interviews. But he's a terrific writer because I really like the way he puts things into perspective. He lived through the time, so he's looking back and really puts a nice perspective on things. And so this is a spotlight, obviously, on 1971, Never a Dull Moment. I think probably one of his most popular books, but he has books on the Beatles, books on different years and different spotlights, that sort of thing. But really enjoy David Hepworth. Okay, and moving right along, we've got number 17, You Found a Grail. For maybe not for everyone this is a grail, but for me, coming across an original copy of The Waterboys Fisherman's Blues, have this on CD, I have the CD box set as well. But yeah, this is such a wonderful album, just a wonderful album from 1988. With their deep dive into Celtic music on that one. Okay, number 18, space-themed album, sleeve, or song. And instantly you got to go with Hawkwind and Space Ritual. It's got, the whole space thing. You can't get more space rock than Hawkwind and the album Space Ritual. Okay, show some VCLT or a present. And this was some really interesting VCLT I got from a good friend of mine, John Gray. And John got me, just out of the blue, Jerry Garcia. This is Before the Dead. So this really spotlights Jerry Garcia before the Grateful Dead. Really his whole bluegrass thing, which I really didn't know that Jerry Garcia was really into the whole bluegrass thing. Kind of bluegrass folk, and really enjoyed this kind of deep dive into this. I can't remember when this CD box set came out. It came out a few years back, but a pleasant surprise. Just a great example of VCLT that you're not expecting, or just, kind of takes you by surprise. So Jerry Garcia, Before the Dead. And last but not least, show an album released in 1973. So I am going to have to go with this absolute classic, Stevie Wonder and Inner Visions. This is a Motown Canadian release. And just, what can you say, a fantastic album from start to finish. So that's going to do it for this one. Rob Walker, Let the Music Play. Rob, thanks for this Vinyl Tag 2023. And as I mentioned, I'll leave a link to Rob's channel, of course, and leave a list of the questions as well. Happy New Year to you and yours. And, of course, we'll be back with so much more. Take care. Bye-bye.